Hello everybody, welcome to episode 3 of Calm Over Chaos Corner. We're here with Millie and Rob, and today our big topic is going to be budgeting. We've got a couple of other FAQs if we get there that Millie asked in some of her socials. But yeah, our main focus is this idea of budgeting. So we're focusing, both of us love finance and we think a lot about money. So we thought it would be quite appropriate to come on and have a go. Yeah, having a chat about perhaps how we budget and some other wise methods of budgeting. So yeah, we'll crack into it. Millie, do you budget? I think is a good first question.
I think we both budget very differently, don't we?
Mm-hmm.
Because I've always found I've worked a lot in a lot of freelance jobs, and freelance jobs means that you don't have a solid income coming in. So I don't know how much I'm going to earn each month. So I actually find it quite hard to budget the same way you do. I think the way that you budget is the way that makes sense for most people, when you know what's coming in each month, and then you can work out the best way to sort of handle that.
Absolutely. So yeah, Millie's we've talked about this a lot, Millie and I, as I've alluded to, but Millie's sort of mentioning I had a stable income for the first sort of 3 years that I was earning properly, and it took me a year or so, and eventually I decided that it was going to be quite wise for me to actually budget my money, make sure I know where it's all going. And you know, the big conversation at the moment is cost of living crisis and inflation. So I think this topic is about as important as it's ever been now, because you know there is struggle out there, there is difficulty, and the best way to get over that is to understand where your money is going and knowing where it can go, or methods that you can use and tactics that you can use to help you out. We're big advocates of sort of owning what you do and taking accountability for actions. So budgeting is a fantastic way to get started on that journey if that's something that you don't find so easy.
I think it can be very overwhelming as something to deal with. I think
Sure.
for a lot of people, it feels like there's just so many different parts to look at, and especially if you feel like you're always sort of struggling to pay everything that you need to pay while the money's coming in. Sometimes it's easier just to not look at it, but in actuality, no matter what you're earning or what your outgoings are, you're going to be in such a better position and feel so much better about it if you're aware of it. Even if like looking at the numbers makes you go, oh my gosh, like this is a dire situation, you can then put things in place to try and tackle it and think, okay, this isn't ideal, but what can I do to take control of the situation and make it better for myself or for the people that I'm looking after.
Yeah, and that's the kind of accountability we're talking about.
It's hard though. It's hard.
It's not going to be an easy step. And the thing is as well, a lot of people struggle with numbers. But I would say the first time you look at it is always going to be the hardest. Every single time you look at them after that, you know, you're going to become more accustomed to looking at them. You're going to become more familiar with terms. You're going to become more familiar with ideas. Everything okay?
Mm-hmm.
And each time you look at money and numbers after that first time, it's going to get just a little bit easier, a little bit more comfortable, until you really start to get it after a while. So one of the first tips that we recommend. I have to caveat everything we're about to say with none of this is financial advice. We're not professionals. We are just two people that really enjoy talking about money, learning about money. We enjoy discussions about money, but do not take what we say as gospel. Do not take it as the correct way. These are just ways that we use. They're ways that are commonly used online as well. So we did some research before this episode. We've done research over the last couple of years ourselves about money and what we make our own decisions. So any decision you make is solely your decision. It should not be based on exactly what we say.
And I think it's important, even if you're if you have friends who are really clued up with their money and you speak to them about it, I think it's really good to, to listen to all, like, everyone's different ideas, everyone's different advice. And then if something really hits home with you and you think, oh, I like the sound of that, still, even if you trust that person, just go and do your own research again anyway. So I just think, like, even with you, Rob, if you say some things to me and I like the sound of it, I still think it's so important that I go and do my own research and have my own understanding.
Yeah, I mean,
because it's my money, you know?
A good example of that is I've been invested in a particular type of fund recently that's done pretty well, but I mentioned it to Millie a few months ago, and Millie just didn't know enough about it to put money in it, because ultimately, if you don't know where the money is going, you have a lot less conviction and a lot less chance of keeping it in there to succeed if that's the way it's going. That's I don't know, a little bit of a prelude to something else, but budgeting is our main topic today, and budgeting it's almost a lot less financial advice than anything down that investing route. So these are more steps and ideas and things that you can think about and follow that are likely going to help you to actually just figure out where you are financially if everything is all a little bit confusing. These are some of the steps that will help you get there and help you sort of ease that mental burden, just because you can go in and know where you stand. And yeah, sometimes that can be one of the biggest helps, is just knowing where you are. So the first step, which is, Millie actually alluded to the difference that her and I had, but the first step is calculating all of your income. So this is knowing how much money you are going to receive, usually done on a monthly or a yearly basis, so you can break it down. But you need to know how much money you are bringing in. Once you have that income number, you can work from there. There's a couple of things to consider here. So income, you can have a couple of different types. So you can think of your gross income. So the word gross just is a word for basically the overall amount that you earn. Now, as many of you who earn money are aware, you do not see all of that money come into your bank account. So what you need to calculate, what you need to work out, is how much money is actually coming into your bank account that you see every single month. So this is what they call the gross pay. So the total amount you get paid. It might be £15 an hour. It might be, they've just increased minimum wage in the UK for people over 21 to, I think it was $11.44, something along those lines.
I think that they've increased it for everyone, but they've lowered. I think it's really stupid. Minimum wage in the UK, there's boundaries on it. So like if you, it's literally so stupid. If you're 19 years old, you earn less money than someone who's older than you, even though you're doing the same job and half the time probably working harder. But yeah, they're lowering it slowly year by year. It used to be like over 25 and now it's over 21, I think. Someone said, so for me, I know what's coming in and what's going out, and that stays in my main account. The rest is money for me to do as I please.
Perfect. And that's something we're going to get to a little bit later. So it sounds like that comment the person behind that one has done step 1. It sounds like they're pretty close on step 2 as well. So yeah, step 1 is figuring out that total income. Now, I'm going to use...
Because should we say the things we're going to talk about in this, I think there's this big idea, and some of you might have heard of it, some of you might not have, but there's this big idea of basically a way to build wealth for yourself no matter what your income is. So there are systems in place around the world, in the UK, that basically means that so many people live paycheck to paycheck and they struggle to get out of that kind of, they call it the rat race. But there's no need for it. There's really, really no need. Like, generally speaking, most people, pretty much all people, can get out of that and have genuine wealth no matter what their income is.
Yeah,
especially with
the key is having a job. Like, as soon as
Yeah.
you've got a job,
So
it's relatively doable.
So when Rob talks about step 1, we're going to talk through the different steps to then get to the place where you build yourself a good amount of wealth rather than just living with what your paycheck brings in, you know? And there are so many cases where people on minimum wage jobs end up accumulating a good amount of wealth to have in their later years and to pass on, because they understand the way that money works.
Yeah.
It's kind of like figuring out how, so we all know that the rich people evade this and evade that, but they also have a really good understanding of how the money system works that a lot of working class and middle class people just don't.
They also just understand their money.
Yeah.
That's the key principle of budgeting and understanding where it's all going, where it's all coming in.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So just to kind of break down, that's where we're thinking of going with this chat.
Yeah. So our step one, understand everything that comes into your bank account. So you're not working on your £15 an hour as an example. We're working off how much of that £15 an hour actually comes into your bank account. So for example, when I was a teacher, obviously it was more of a fixed income. So I knew quite easily what was going to come into my bank account. This is the same with most working jobs. I had what were called deductions. So the first deduction that most of you would be aware of is your pay-as-you-earn tax. So in the UK in particular, you have a tax. It actually only comes into play when you've earned about £12,000 on the year. But once it comes into play, it's about 20%, I think, for a majority of people. I'm only generalizing here, so you would have to check what your own tax bracket is if you want to know. But most of the time, it's just enough to know what comes into your bank account every month. Step 2. So once you've figured out that amount that you see every month or every week or every fortnight, I find monthly is probably the easiest to work out for me. I always ran my budget on a monthly basis. So the next step is...
You have a full-on spreadsheet for it, don't you?
Yeah, I have a full-on spreadsheet. I'm more than happy as well, once we throw this up onto YouTube, more than happy to throw my spreadsheet into somewhere so that people can access it if they want to have a look, or utilize it and use it as just change the numbers around and it'll work for you as well. So step number 2 is knowing all of your expenses. So we call these expenses. These are things that you pay every week, every month, that you know you're going to have to pay. Now, some people, I think a couple of people asked, perhaps on one of Millie's posts, what is most important for me to focus on? Which bills are most important to prioritize? When I calculate how much I'm spending and my expenses, what is the most important thing to think about? Yeah. Which is a fantastic question, and that needs to be addressed properly.
Well, and it's hard as well, isn't it? If you're looking at the money that's coming in and you're like, well, there's not enough in here to cover everything that I need to pay for, which one do I do first to look after myself the best and to get in the least amount of trouble?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is where little bits of sacrifice and personal, I guess almost the accountability of just knowing what is your most important bill and respecting those.
So how would you order your most important bills? I know how I did it when I was...
I think you naturally did it.
Yeah.
In quite a good manner, from what you've said.
A lot of the things this is the difference with Rob and I with money. I think throughout a lot of my life, I've sort of figured things out, but not known what I was doing. So Rob is very practiced and very methodical, and you'll do things very deliberately. Whereas I've kind of guessed at a lot of it, but I think ended up with good enough answers. So I used to be on £750 a month. I spent about 6 months earning £750 a month. Turns out later down the line I was on the wrong tax code because I was working 40 hours, so I should have been earning more. But that was my income, and that's just what I thought I had to deal with. I was just working in a bar, and my rent was £550 a month. So after I'd paid my rent, I literally had £200 to spend on everything for the whole month, which was doable, but it was tight because my bills would have... So my rent was number one for me at that time, and then the bills that came with it, I think, came to another £100 or so, and then food. I would make sure my food shops were so low, but I was living off like plain pasta, plain rice. But there's like a chart you can use, isn't there?
There is.
To figure out which things to prioritize.
Yeah, so I learned about this one in uni, and it was through my teaching actually. So we think about these it's a pyramid. So at the bottom you have the most important things for a human, and at the top you have the least important, or still important things for a human to have, but not the most essential. Like these are the things that you'd like but you don't need. So the pyramid, you can look it up online, is called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So MASLOW.
It's quite aesthetically nice to look at and understand as well.
Yeah, and basically a pyramid doesn't work unless the base has its foundations and they are nice and solid. So across the bottom of the pyramid, these are the bills that you have to prioritize. These are the ones that come first and foremost. Nothing else gets a look in, really. So these are your bills for water, obviously a need of every single human. Another bill is for shelter. So your water comes kind of with your shelter bill anyway, as a part of your house bills.
For a lot of people,
or your rent bills, yeah. And then your next one is food. So these three...
Didn't food come first?
They're all on the same level. They're all on the same level. Yeah, food could come before it as well. But these are all, an interchangeable three, where these are literally just your most important. And as Millie mentioned, food does not mean eating out. It just means, what do you need to survive? And yeah, sometimes you have to drop down to beans and rice is the common one on a program that we like to watch, where, you just eat the cheapest, most nutritious food that you can on the cheapest budget. Obviously, most people aren't going to eat like that, but, set out a monthly budget of food, rent, and, well, water comes probably within rent, and your utility bills. So those are your most important needs. Anything after that, you have to think about clothing, you have to think about the things around your house, like your Wi-Fi is these days probably going to be relatively important. Your phone bill is going to be relatively important. So scale these next bits and the next needs accordingly. So I'm definitely not advocating for splashing out on things like Wi-Fi if money is tight. Get what you need. I guess that's the kind of message. Thoughts, Mills?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a really hard one to sit and talk about, because for some people I feel like it's like verging on patronizing to say all of this. But then as well, a lot of the questions that I had when I put up a little box were really, really, really people were just wanting things like this explained to them like they were a 5-year-old. And so I think the purpose of this video is or the beginning of it anyway, is just to really lay it out. So if there is anyone who is struggling to understand and prioritize and things like that, but doesn't really want to ask because it's a bit embarrassing because they feel like they should know. Hopefully it will help them listening too.
Yeah, sometimes it's almost we listen to a really cool YouTube channel. I think I can call it out. It's not nothing too crazy. So we listen to The Ramsey Show, it's an American guy, but he just doesn't take any crap, and he basically tells people that it's like a call-in show. They call in, have a problem, and he helps them out alongside a couple of colleagues.
But when you say he doesn't take any crap, it's because you literally can. It's so doable. I think one of the big on the list of the billionaires one year, I was looking at it.
List of billionaires.
What list of billionaires? One of them was a frigging like car wash guy who literally was on a minimum wage job his entire life, and then died in his like really old age, and his family inherited so much money, and they were like, what the hell is going on? Where did he get this money from? Because he was just living a really I guess you just looked at him and thought he didn't have a lot of money. He was in a minimum wage job his entire life, living in a really low cost apartment in a really bad area of town, but he was putting his money in the correct places, which I think we'll go into a little bit because a lot of people asked about this. And And so from that, he accumulated all of this wealth. So it's kind of like, yeah, you can be a little bit harsh and say to people you need to take accountability for your own money. But it's like, if you genuinely want to get to the point in your life where you don't have to worry about money, no matter what your earnings are, it's so doable. But it's just not taught in schools. It's like schools.
I struggle. Sorry, finish what you're saying.
Well, it
I
isn't.
I
It
did struggle
isn't.
with what's being said.
That it isn't taught to you, and I think it's a lot easier to keep everyone in the system that works for the people at the top, rather than educate people or encourage people to learn things about the way everything works themselves.
The biggest thing I would add to that comment about not learning it in school is I actually don't think most humans are ready to learn it in school.
I thought you were going to say that.
The maturity level.
You think about when we were in school, and we'd learn things and we'd be like, I don't care enough about this.
I think about myself and my journey with money, and I was 22 or 23 before I even started caring. So anything that was told to me, like my dad sat me down as well. My dad is an avid budgeter, and he sat me down a handful of times and was like, Rob, these are things that you'll need to know. But at that point, I just didn't really listen. I wasn't mature enough. I wasn't earning any money. So, it was like, why do I care?
This is so sad.
At that point. So, there's... There is something to be said for it not being taught properly at school, but I think there's also something about the maturity level of the students in that class.
I also just think it's either okay. Even if we take school out of it, it's still not made common knowledge, and I think that's a deliberate decision.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised. Cool. So that's number 2 is understanding understanding your bills, knowing where the money will go. The other thing to do as well is to track it and genuinely write it down, know where that money is going. So what that gives you is once you know where the money is going, you then know how much you have available for extra spending, for fun spending, which we'll talk about shortly. But writing it down on a spreadsheet can be really helpful. Writing it down, Millie uses her journal. So the key thing is to not just think about it, is to have it written down. And yeah, again, as you use numbers and as you become more familiar with them, then they will in turn and in time they will make sense. Nowadays as well, there are so many amazing tools online and apps and things like that. I would definitely urge you to not pay for them, because I don't think paying for that is necessary. But yeah, have a look into how to use a spreadsheet just quickly, or use the tools there that are by your fingertips. The tracking is pretty key. Cool. Number 3 is goal setting. So once you've written everything down and you can kind of see a clear overview of how much you're spending, how much is coming in, you can figure out whether there is, enough there coming in to allow you to live a little, or whether you need to live a little bit more, or whether you need to cut back, or whether you need to think about anything in terms of your money. Your next step is setting a goal. You good?
Yeah, it's just the silver glitter is coming up so bright, it just looks white on the camera.
Oh.
So I was just like, but it's fine. You can carry on.
Thank you. So we're goal setting for number 3. Now, goal setting it's a fun topic again. Millie and I have discussed this one many times, because Millie, I hope you don't mind me saying, but is a fantastic goal setter. She writes things down, has it all planned out in concrete, sometimes years in advance, and honestly it's remarkable and it's impressive. So couple of things to know with goal setting. There's this idea of what we call a SMART goal. So SMART goals is just a way of breaking it down. It's an acronym. It means specific. It has to be, so that's your S. The M is measurable. So, let's say maybe you wanted to save £1,000 over a 6-month period. So that's a specific goal. It's measurable because after 6 months you can see in my account, is there an extra £1,000? Then you have A, which is attainable. So if I set the goal that I wanted to be able to jump to the moon, it's going to be a pointless goal. Never going to be able to jump to the moon. It's not attainable.
And I guess in
Silly example, but-
financial terms, if you're on a 20k salary and you want to save 20k by the end of the year, it just doesn't make sense, and you're going to fall off, and it's not realistic, is it?
Or you're setting a goal that you want to be a millionaire next year or something silly.
Low-key me.
Those lead to dangerous financial decisions, and people start gambling and taking huge risks that are completely unnecessary. I will caveat it with, I do take risks, especially with my investments, but I like to think that they're somewhat calculated. The next one is the R. So this is realistic. Sometimes the letters change just slightly, but they have the same meaning. So again, realistic and attainable or achievable, they're the same kind of idea. We want it to be set in reality. Becoming a millionaire by next year for 99% of the population is just not a realistic goal. Fantastic goal to have, but you need to make it realistic. Maybe you say by the time you're 50, by the time you're 60,
it's
of a sudden it does actually become realistic.
Very doable.
Oh,
Every single human living in the UK who, also hello to everyone who's joining the live, thank you. Every single human living in the UK who is earning money throughout their adult life, if they do it correctly from a young age, can end up with $1 million.
Yeah. This is, the power of, you'll hear it quite a lot, but compounding interest in particular is the big player there. It genuinely makes a huge, huge difference.
Compounding interest is the absolute magic that is how people get wealthy.
Yeah.
People who aren't on big salaries. I think that's the thing I really want to keep stressing, because it's so crazy, and it's something I try and stress to my friends in my life. Like a lot of my friends are on good jobs, they're like primary school teachers, things like that, and they could just so easily earn so much more money and just have that extra safety blanket without having to do really any extra work, if they just have the tools and they know how to do it.
We listened to a lady who called into the Ramsey show, which is that podcast we listened to, and she was in her mid-30s, early 30s, and Dave basically ran the numbers down for her, and she wasn't earning anything crazy. It might have been like $1,000. I think she might have been earning like $1,000 a month, obviously from the US, but the numbers got really, really crazy really fast for her, where even over like a 20 or 30 year period of just putting money away, it turned into multi-millions just because of the power of interest. It was crazy. I don't want to delve too deeply onto that because it's a little bit sort of higher level than what we're trying to talk about right now. The final letter of SMART for our goal setting is timed. So you want to make sure that it comes alongside specific a little bit, but you want to set yourself a time. It's no good saying that, well, it is okay, but it's just more difficult if you say, I wanted to be a millionaire. By when? How do you measure that? How do you know if you're achieving that goal? So you want it to be timed. You want to say, if I go back to the first example I gave, I want to have £1,000 saved in 6 months. I know that doesn't have to be your goal. That's just a goal, like an example. That's obviously quite a loomy task for some people. Maybe it's to have £100 saved over a couple of months or whatever time frame. Just make sure that it is timed. Once you have these goals, you have to be really honest with yourself as well. And maybe you have a little bit of debt you want to pay down. Maybe you have something you even want to treat yourself to. But having those goals, making sure they're timed, they're measurable, they're specific, and they're realistic and attainable is a fantastic way to start going on this budgeting journey as well. And since we're talking about budgeting, you know, these goals are most likely going to be money related, aren't they? They're going to be something along the lines of, I want to have X amount saved, I by X time frame or Y time frame that, you know, helps you then further your goals.
Would you say as well with those goals it's important to have a reason why? Because another thing I hear is, I've had friends who really struggle with money, and they'll say to me, right, that's it, I'm cracking down, I'm gonna save money. You can probably guess which friend I'm thinking of. I'm gonna save money, and they'll say, right, by the end of the year I'm gonna have saved $2,000, for example. And then they'll kind of stick to it for a little bit until they get a bit bored of saving, and then they'll fall off the bandwagon. And I always think it's because, what are they saving for? They sort of have in their head, I need to save because I've been told that I need to. I know it's something I need to do. I know I need like a sort of an emergency fund for when I'm older, or if I get into trouble. I know I need savings, but they don't have a tangible thing that they are specifically saving for. So it's kind of like, as soon as things get a little bit harder, if you don't have that core reason, it's a bit like building a business, I think, in a way for me, because I have these core reasons that I really want to make this business work. As soon as things get hard, I come back to like the people I want to help and the messages I want to put out, and that keeps me going. If I didn't have that core why, it's so easy to just think, oh, can't be bothered with that. And then
Do you want to briefly mention what the why is? Are you happy to share that?
What do you mean?
I think some people might not be exactly sure what a why could be. Like,
well, it can be anything. It fully depends on the person. When it comes to savings, like it.
I'm happy to share my one if
Yeah.
one doesn't come to mind.
Yeah, go for it. It could work for some people. It'll be a car. For some people, it'll be a house. For some people, for me, it's
What's the why though?
Why do they want that?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe if
What's
you
the
share
why?
yours as an example, then.
Yeah. For me, my first 3 years of teaching, I lived pretty frugally. I didn't want for a lot, but that's because my why was strong. My why I was saving, why I wasn't spending my money on just things I didn't need at that point. One of two reasons. The first one was I had the goal. I had a goal to do a fair amount of travel. I also had the goal to have a particular passive income by the time I'm 30.
Do you want to explain what a passive income is?
Income that I generate without having to work.
Just money that comes in
Yeah.
irrespective of any work you do. So it doesn't matter how much you're earning in your day job. Passive income is money that will just come in regardless.
Sounds brilliant, right? But you know, it was a goal, and the third one was getting on the property ladder at some point, and you know that completes one of the hierarchy of needs at the bottom there. It takes care, even though it's a long way off, it takes care of that number one need, which is the shelter. So those were my whys. I wanted to go live my life really. So I was happy to.
Oh, shh. What's going on all over the place?
I was happy to sacrifice for a handful of years to make sure that opportunities came up in my life. Once they came up, I was able to say yes to them.
Mine's a little bit more of a different. Mine definitely started as a different perspective. Mine started out as more of a safety net. So I didn't have the best childhood in the world. I won't go into that, but basically I didn't feel like I didn't have any external support. Like I felt like no matter what happened to me in my life, I would have to be the one to sort it out. So like, for example, if I couldn't afford to pay for myself to live somewhere, there wasn't going to be anyone who was going to come along who would say, well, just say, I didn't have a home to go to in that way that some people do. So a huge incentive for me to start saving a good amount of money was that I just wanted a good safety net, so that no matter what happened in my life, or no matter who was around me, who helped or who let me down, I could look after myself, and I wasn't going to be scared, and I would have somewhere safe and comfortable to live. And that's ever since I've been maybe like 12, 13 years old. I was saving with that really, really strong why, is that I just wanted to have myself covered, and I wanted somewhere, it was somewhere safe and somewhere comfortable and happy to live. And then as I've grown, it's turned into more things. Now I've been fortunate enough, and I've been having somewhere safe and comfortable to live for about 10 years now. Maybe not 10. I'm not that old. Say like 6 or 7 years, and now the whys grow. Like there's so many travel things I want to do that I want to be able to afford. One day I would like to have some sort of family, and I'd love to be paying for that. And again, that is a strong desire for me to save money for, but it's not going to be for a lot of people. A lot of my friends won't even be thinking about anything like that at this point. So
yeah, and I mean, your why is a very, very powerful one. That's where, if you can really knuckle down to that reason why you want to help yourself, and why you want to understand this, it almost, would you say, at least for you, it doesn't really matter how difficult it is. You're still going to do what you need to do to get there.
For me, the way I was feeling when I didn't feel like I didn't have the safety and I didn't have the money to look after myself, no matter what happened, that feeling was just the worst feeling. And I remember sat there thinking like, okay, so I either have my entire life be like this, or I do something about it now and I get myself out of this situation. And I never wanted to go back to really struggling to just afford anything like that. The desire not to be there is enough of a why for me now, but for a lot of people it won't be.
It's powerful.
It's a blessing and a curse for sure, having a trickier start in life. Yeah, I've thought this a few times.
The more I've talked to Millie, the more impressed I am about how strong her why is, and just the determination and the grind is, it's admirable, really.
That's quite nice.
Yeah, you're welcome. Another really strong why is family as well. So many people, have kids or want to have kids, and that why can be to give them a better life, to offer them opportunity, and that is a remarkably powerful why.
But like we said, it does not matter what your why is. If your why is that you genuinely want to be in the place where you can afford to have 20 ridiculously expensive cars, or something that I personally think is a little bit stupid, because it's just not for me. If it's that, or if it's that you just want to be able to retire at 30 years old, or if it's that, it literally does not matter. Your why can be anything, as long as you, figure out what it is, really sit down and get to grips with what you want out of life, what your priorities are. That's huge. Or even if it's just like, you don't know, like a lot of the time when I was younger, I was saving and I was thinking, I don't necessarily know what I'm going to want or need to spend this money on, but I know I'm going to need money to do something to get myself out of a situation or sort of change my situation. And so it got to the point when I was 17, I moved away from England. I got a ticket to Canada, and I was able to afford that ticket because I'd been saving for, I didn't know what it was at the time, but I knew there would be something, Yeah.
I would like to point out as well that none of these things should, in the most ideal situation.
This glitter is fun. Look at these.
In the most ideal situation, none of this should be done by acquiring debt or taking loans out, if absolutely possible. One of the needs that I don't know if I had mentioned is a car. That as well, it's a big purchase. You've got to make sure you need it, really, because it can go wrong quite quickly. Anyway, so quick recap. We've had number 1 for budgeting tips is to understand your income, know how much money is coming into your bank account every single month or every single week, however you want to time it.
I'm going to go take my jumper off quick.
Cool. Number 2 is to understand all your payments and understand where your money is going and tracking it. So writing down if it's at the end of every month. I've actually just done it myself for the last 6 months because I was slacking. But
yeah, you were slacking actually. I remember thinking that. I was like,
yeah, for me it was
peeps, Rob.
It was not good. So I caught myself and I was like, right, you're going to have to sit down. I must put in 4 or 5 hours of work, maybe 4 hours, just write, like going onto my banking accounts, seeing every single dollar I spent, and yeah, tracking it, knowing where my money's going, and from there you can do number 3, which is setting your goals. Now, your goal setting, we mentioned having a really strong why to help you start achieving those goals, and then making them smart. So specific, measurable, attainable or achievable, realistic. Did I say that already? And
Yeah.
timed. So I'll repeat it just in case I mucked it up. So specific, measurable, achievable or attainable, realistic, and timed. So those are the things to help you with a bit of goal setting.
Whoopsie.
We're going off on some tangents on this too.
Classic
we're
us.
going deep. We're going deep.
I think it's important. I think
so. Yeah.
I think if you sit there, this is what I was almost thinking this is going to sound a bit rude, but when you were talking before, I was almost like zoning out a little bit, because it's just like, what's the point of doing it all? I actually almost think step 1 is understand why you want to learn all of this.
Sure.
It's almost like what you said when I said that it's not taught in schools, and you were like, well, kids won't listen. I feel like adults are almost the same, where it's like, if you don't understand why it's so important and why it can be really, really cool for you to learn this, you're just going to switch off right at the beginning, aren't you?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if you start by saying like, look, you can get yourself out of all your financial worries, you can be a millionaire by the time, whatever time, and you can literally just take control of your life.
I think it's the control.
It's the freedom.
Biggest
the
one.
freedom, for me, it's freedom and safety.
Yeah, and that comes into Millie's why quite strongly, is the freedom, the feeling that you're not hamstrung by anything. It's remarkably freeing when you understand where everything's going. Number 4. So there are 6 steps. 4, 5, and 6 become a little less crucial in their seriousness and their importance and how much they matter, but they are still quite important. We have number 4, which is making a plan. So this follows on nicely from goal setting. It's amazing. Once you have a goal, the best way to follow that up is to have a plan so that you can help yourself through that. And it can be a short, simple plan. It can be something a lot more methodical, a lot more thought out.
Mm-hmm.
I do actually have a suggested plan, which is like, it's low-key just universally accepted as being a fantastic way to plan what happens with your money and where it's all going. So I'm now thinking of what color I want my title to be.
Ooh. Glitter orange. Surely glitter orange.
I'm going to go for brush because of time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, soz.
What time are we on?
About 45.
We've been on for 45 minutes.
Yeah,
Wow, all these people still chilling with us. Thank you for sticking around. Oh gosh, even if I'm just messing up my camera 24/7. Oh gosh.
So one of the best ways to plan. I'm sorry if you're not amazing with percentages in particular, but
People saying, I wish my family cared enough to teach me this sort of thing. A lot of your families might not even really know.
well, that's a big thing. I consider us your family now.
Yeah.
We're here to help.
I'll try.
We'll talk about it. I apologize if percentages aren't really your thing, but one way of breaking it down as well is X amount in every 10 or every 100. So I'll explain that a little further. So a really good rule of thumb that people use in the financial industries is to use a 50-30-20 rule. Now, this is based off of your income and the amount of money you see coming into your bank account. So a way of distributing your money. This is basically what this is. So it's like helping you to figure out how much money you have to spend on what particular activities or what particular bills so that you can plan, you can, change the situation if you need. Sometimes we notice, and it is noticed, that a lot of people live in, housing or in parts of the country that are just much more expensive than others. A really easy example of that is Millie was living in a relatively equivalent flat to me.
Yours was nicer.
My flat was...
Yours was way nicer.
My flat was even more nice. But the location was the massive kicker. And I'm not telling you to up and move, but
it's hard.
It's just an example.
I think it's really hard when your family's somewhere. That's the biggest thing that I think will, like, if you're born in a really wealthy area somewhere, like, but your whole family's there, you're just not going to want to move away. But also, it's expensive.
Yeah, I mean, they're just adult considerations that you have to make.
Yeah, for sure.
To put it into perspective, Millie was paying, can I say how much?
Yeah.
So roughly £800 a month.
Yeah.
Correct?
On rent, yeah. And that's cheap for my area.
Yep.
Like, a lot of my friends will easily be paying more than 1,000 for one room.
Whereas I was living in Southampton quite deliberately because, I mean, I had the freedom to choose that, but I also knew rent in London was way expensive. So I was paying just a shade over £400 a month. So instantly, no matter what your income is, in those two situations, the person living in Southampton in particular frees up £400 just like that. And I lived in a lovely little area. There was absolutely nothing wrong with the flat. It was fantastic people.
It just depends what your priority is, isn't it? Like,
yeah, absolutely.
My priority when I moved there was I wanted to make friends. And the reason I stayed was I was really enjoying the London life, especially in my early 20s. So for me, that extra £400 was a sacrifice I was willing to make in other areas. I was willing to really cut down on my food shops. I was willing to go out less and have a few more sacrifices in that way to be able to stay around the friends I was making and to be able to be in London in my early 20s.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other sacrifice a lot of us make is a lot of us rent with other people. So we're flat with people. Doesn't always work out, but it is a fantastic way of cutting those costs, because otherwise the place that I was staying, all of a sudden, instead of being $400 a month, there were 4 of us in there, so it would become over $1,500. It would become $1,600 a month.
Which, to be fair, is still what people pay for a one room in London.
Yeah, but that feels unattainable. That feels like throwing a lot of my income away every month. So going back to the 50-30-20 rule, we want 50% of our take-home income going towards needs. So these are your things that we mentioned earlier, your bills and utilities and your food, your shelter, the things that are really important, the things that you need to live. And again, that comes down to being able to spell it out, being able to figure out how much of that money that you take in.
What I do,
you need to know what that
because
is.
I'm not that great with percentages, I'll literally just go on Google. So say when I was earning like 1,400 a month, I would just go on Google and be like 50% of 1,400 or like 39% of 1,400. You can literally just type it in like that and it'll tell you the number.
Yeah.
So you don't even have to do maths anymore.
You can even ask your phone. So even like a Siri or a Google, is it Hey Google or whatever it is?
I don't know. I don't use it.
Literally just ask your phone. And you'll get those numbers, and once you get those numbers, you'll become more accustomed to them. You'll start to understand them a little bit better. Sorry about that. And your 30%. So 50 is your needs, 30 is your wants. So maybe it is something that you want to have. Maybe you want to have a slightly nicer car. Maybe you want to have...
God, these Crayola pens are rubbish compared to my ones. I'm trying to use them up, but... Sorry, carry on.
Maybe for me, I want to have a gym membership, or you may want to have a club membership of whatever activity that you really enjoy doing. Those are the things that keep you happy, keep you sane, things that you really want to do. You could have a National Trust membership to go and see beautiful...
It would also be like things that are really popular at the minute are subscriptions to things like nicer razors, nicer like deodorants, subscriptions to what's it Eve has? Eve has like a £9, she won't care about me saying, she has like a £9 beauty box subscription
Yeah, sure.
that I think she would say it's a necessity in the way it does keep her sane, in the same way like a gym membership might for you.
Mm-hmm.
Those kind of things just can't be on your normal bills, even though it comes out like a direct debit as a normal bill. It's not a necessity at all, so you can't.
No. And it's a want, and everyone is allowed their wants. Everyone is allowed to decide what it is that they want. But yeah, the rule of thumb is to only spend 30% of your monthly income on those wants.
We've just had a comment that I think is really fair. They said, I'm at the point in my life where I look at my finances and cry, but this is somewhere to start.
There's always a chance to start.
Mm-hmm.
That's the biggest thing. The being able to start is, that's your route in. I'm also happy to put in the little cheat sheet I've created as well.
Maybe when we upload it later
somewhere.
Yeah.
When we upload it to YouTube, we'll be able to. TikTok might not let us talk.
Don't want to always get flagged.
But yeah, I'll try and put the resources out there as well. Maybe Millie can spruce them up and make them look nice. I don't know. The last 20%, so that's been 80% of our income. I would definitely argue this can be, tinkered by 5% or so, case by case, of course. But the final 20% is your savings. This is making sure that you have money for a rainy day, making sure that you have your future self thought about and cared about. I go back to this podcast so frequently because I think their ideas are pretty spot on. So they argue that if you don't necessarily have a goal at the start, what you should aim for is 1,000. They talk about dollars, but it's relatively equitable to pounds these days.
I think it's equitable.
£1,000 as a savings, just in your bank, as what they call an emergency fund. I think it's a fantastic idea. So
that's like if something really bad happens, you get hit by a bus and you need the cash.
But yeah, £1,000 isn't going to help you get hit by a bus.
Well, do you know what I mean? Leave me alone.
Yeah, so
an unforeseen.
Yep, an unforeseen expense. There's a leak in your house. There's something that's gone wrong with your car. You need to get it fixed. When you're initially starting to save, you want to try and build this £1,000 as an emergency fund. Again, it's a daunting number for sure. I definitely agree with that. But if you can follow the sort of the 3 steps that we've talked about before this, once you get to number 3, your goal setting, make it your goal to have that £1,000. And it's an unbelievably different mindset once it's sitting there and you know that you've locked it away, you're not going to touch it until that rainy day comes. Oh man, that feeling when a rainy day hits, you're just like, okay, cool, I can cover that. It's just a remarkable stress relief in those most stressful situations.
There's another comment that says, as a 21-year-old who's been homeless 3 times, this has really opened my eyes.
That's amazing. I kind of making me a little lost for words. That's the sort of impact that I guess we would like this podcast to have at times. I know we're colouring, I know we're having a bit of fun, and we're just talking about things we care about.
I just think it's so doable. I think there's, again, because I see it in my friends, there's so many people who sit and just think, I have friends who just they say to me they've just accepted the fact that they're going to be skint forever. That's just their life because that's the kind of area they work in, like the field they work in. Even I have friends who are amazing who have chosen to work in the humanitarian sector just because they're good people, but they know that there's no money that comes with that. And yeah, okay, you've chosen a lower paying job and field, and that's cool. You've done it for whatever reasons you want to, but also you just don't have to be skint forever. You really don't. It's just false news, really.
I think it's a mindset.
But that's not fair to say. I think that sounds too harsh, because if people have never ever been told or realised that there are other ways, and I think I have so many friends who are in their 30s who are really smart, intelligent people, And I'll talk about stuff like this to them and they've never heard about it. So I don't think it's fair to say it's a mindset, especially if the people you're surrounded by also think like that, you know? I think
you get kind of echo chambered into it being normal, don't you?
I think the key though is learning about it, hearing about it, even just from what we've spoken about a little bit today, and we can do other times where we talk more in detail.
I'd love to.
But then not ignoring it, because again, I keep saying my friends. I'm not trying to just sound popular. It's literally like just my handful of my closest friends. I've probably had these conversations with all of them, and one of them has gone and actually done the steps to start building that wealth. And basically all of them are teachers. Another one is like thinking about it, but again, just kind of puts it at the back of her mind and doesn't. And then the rest of them are just like, it's just not really for me. And it's like, okay, that's fine. It doesn't have to be for you. But then you are genuinely accepting that you are just going to be skint and struggling forever when you don't have to be. Someone's just said, it really made me realize it's not too late. I can change it around. 100%.
Yeah, I mean, even what we're saying is the simple stuff. When you start, like, I implore you to go and have a little look at what they call a compound interest calculator. Sounds daunting. Genuinely, all you have to do is plug the numbers into little text boxes. And if you're not 100% sure of what the word means, just Google it. Have a little check at what that word means.
If you really don't know, I genuinely don't mind if you send us an email and we can be like, this is what this bit is.
Yeah, we can have a go. And the numbers that come out of that are absolutely staggering. Anyway, so another thing for your plan is also understanding your financial situation. One of the biggest things that probably should come about in a plan is to get debt free. And again, this is just it's a peace of mind thing, and a lot of times debt is what holds us all back from really being even just stress free about money as well.
I didn't realize how common debt was. I personally have just never gone down the path of debt, but you have debt, don't you?
I have debt, and Millie will be able to tell you it lives in my head rent free, and I'm always
You think about it a lot, don't you?
I think about it a lot. Now, my debt is student loan debt, which, sure, arguably some of the best debt to have.
In terms, if you're going to have debt.
Mainly because it's interest free, which means that every year it doesn't increase in its total value that I have to pay back. But that's only if I live in New Zealand. So it's in my head rent free now because it is bearing interest. Now, interest is a word that might confuse a few people. People might have heard of it, not know exactly what it means. So here's what it means, just on a baseline level. If you take out a loan of whatever kind, you pay something called interest. Now, interest, the money has to come from somewhere, right? So somebody is offering you that money, but they're not giving it to you for free. It may feel like it's free at the time, but when you pay that money back, you pay extra on top of it as a fee, as almost a gift to that person saying, thank you for loaning me that money. So let's say you did, or let's say £1,000 because it's a smaller number, or even 100. Let's go 100. So let's say Millie wanted £100 for fixing her phone. She didn't have £100, so she asked somebody, not a friend. This is like an establishment. Usually loans are with bigger numbers. I'm just making it as simple as I can. Millie needs help to.
Oh, sorry.
Millie needs help to fix her phone. She needs $100. She doesn't, or £100. She doesn't have it. So she goes to an institution or a company that offers loans. She says, "Hey, can I please have a loan?" They're like, "Absolutely. Here's £100. You can go and fix your phone." Amazing. Sounds brilliant. However, there is an interest rate on that loan. So what that means is that when Millie pays her £100 back, whatever the interest rate is, basically becomes an extra charge at the end of the loan period. So when Millie pays her loan back, let's say her interest was 5%, £100 was a nice easy number to use because we can figure out 5% of 100. Figuring out a percentage, you just can divide it by 100 and then multiply it by the number of percent. So you divide 100 by 100, gives you 1. And then you multiply that by the 5%, which was the interest rate.
Or you do
Which-
what I do and ask Google.
Yeah, you can ask Google. You can put it into a calculator as well. And so when Millie pays back this loan, she pays back this 5% fee, this 5% interest.
Someone
So
said
she'll pay
Rob's-
back £105. Meaning, sorry, I'll come to the
No,
comment.
I
just
know.
wanna finish what I was saying.
Yeah, sorry, that's why I
So-
stopped.
Once you pay back that loan, you pay £100 back, so you're giving the gift back, but you're also paying a 5% fee, which is your interest rate. Hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, someone said, mate, Rob's cured my dyscalculia. I don't know how to say it. Basically, it looks like dyslexia, but for numbers.
Yeah.
Why wasn't he around
Yeah.
in GCSE maths? I actually understand him.
I'm trained to be a math teacher.
You actually are, aren't you?
I 100% am, yeah.
There's also a comment that says, I think it's my debt that stopped me believing I can do anything to help moving forward, which is also a really common mindset, I think.
Yep. And that's where your plan, probably first and foremost to people that have debt, including myself, plan A should be to get rid of the debt. And I think...
It also, I feel like getting rid of debt feels less, not important, but it feels like it doesn't feel like you're getting anything at the end of it. You know, when we talk about the
Yeah.
why,
Yeah.
for me, and I know I can't really talk too much because I'm very lucky I don't have debt, but also I'm just kind of like, you're not getting anything at the end of paying that off. So it's like, well, I'd rather save and go on holiday because I'll actually enjoy that. Do you know?
Yeah, fantastic point. It can be very hard to figure out why you need to pay that down. The key to that answer is it's all in the mind. It's all about stress. It's all about relieving the stress that you free up money for yourself, really.
And I think the way that some people saying like they're starting to realise it's not too late, I think another way to look at it is, I don't know how old you are now, but say you're 30, you can look at it and say like, okay, so in 10 years time when I'm 40, I can be in this exact same position, or I can be even more stressed because my debt has just increased because of interest, or I can be 40 and I can be free from it all and building something else. So it's almost like you're just sort of planning for future you. Because someone else also said, I think it's also about breaking down having such high expectations so young. To me, 21 seems old, but my brother bought a house at 18, so I thought I'd have to be the same, but that's not necessarily the way.
It's
Which
not
is
always the right
also
choice either.
so key. Neither of us are huge. For us personally, neither of us are even really thinking about buying a house anytime soon.
It's literally not the right purchase for us now. And
It's not the right
a
choice.
huge chunk of money to lock up somewhere to...
But again, society tells you the best thing to do for yourself and for your life financially is get on the property ladder as soon as you can. I'm just putting it out there, it's not for me. It's not the best financial choice for me right now.
I would definitely say that it is probably the safest investment that you could make. But the problem is
It's also
barrier
a
to entry.
bloody big one.
Yeah, the barrier to entry and the risk. There is risk in there as well involved. But maybe, a conversation for a different day. But yeah, your why does not have to be to own a house. Your why can be anything else.
Yeah, for sure.
There are two more. They're not particularly long steps, but
This one, one more comment and then we'll go back to the other steps. I'm 32 with 3 sons. I want to be able to have money to support them into adulthood because I never had that.
amazing
That's the
why.
Yeah,
And an
huge
absolute
why.
Amazing why.
I got goosebumps.
Again, that's the family why. The family why is probably, it comes first for many people, or first or second. Millie and I can't exactly speak to it because we don't have kids of our own. But I know that my parents' why was to give my brother and I a better life. You know, that's such a crazy powerful why. A lot of people will go to the end of the earth for their kids and do whatever it takes.
Especially you being a mama with 3 boys. Think of what you're showing them if you work super hard and you get that debt paid off and you get them into a better position, even in the way that they're probably going to view women as
Powerful.
smart and powerful and strong.
Yeah, independent as well.
It's
So
huge.
powerful,
It's
so
huge. Even taking tiny steps, they'll see that and they'll get it. Kids are smart.
Yeah, they sure are. Number 5. So we've got 2 more little steps to focus on if you're still with us. Again, we'll break them down. I can put this as a spreadsheet somewhere for people to have a look at. Number 5 is making adjustments and then also creating those habits. So once you've set your goals, once you've understood your why, once you've understood where you're at, you need to keep checking in. Oh, sorry, I've skipped myself. You need to make adjustments. So those adjustments can be how you spend your money on a weekend, how you once you've seen where all the money goes, adjust it to your goals, adjust it to what you want to achieve, and utilize your plan to help you make those adjustments. Once you've sort of picked what a couple of really good, strong adjustments might be, that's when you want to make that habit change. And I would definitely say make these adjustments that are going to be bearable for you. Going all to nothing, from all to nothing, tends to be a really tough way to sustain a habit. So, if you, if you're going from never having worked out before to working out 7-8 times a week and working for 2 hours a day, it's just not going to be maintainable. You're not going to be able to continue doing that habit. An amazing book for this as well, if people are into reading, is Atomic Habits. The book that I really appreciated. I think Millie didn't appreciate it as much as I did because most of the habits she was already doing.
I'm just weird.
Yeah.
I'm just a weirdo.
Yeah. But I found that book really good just to highlight what it means to make a habit and some different tactics to help that too. And yeah, basically once you form an idea of some new habits around what your goals are, and once you have an understanding of the money, it becomes a lot more easy to make these habits and make some of these changes.
There's a question that says, would you say you can have a small Y and a big Y? Is that where the A and the R come in?
The A and the R.
Yeah, I don't remember what we said with A and the R.
Oh, attainable and realistic. I think so. I think.
Yeah.
Heck, you're allowed 16 Ys if you want to. They can differ in their power, but it's understanding what's important to you, understanding what it is and what the reasons are that you're doing it. Because if you don't have those, it just makes it more easy to fall off it if you're not basing it around a desire or a big reason, an overarching reason of why you're doing it.
Well, like someone said, one of their whys was to save up for IVF. That's obviously a huge why, to be able to have kids.
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, family becomes one of the most important whys that people can find. And yeah, it's more powerful than my whys because it's not selfish, really. As soon as you start thinking about others, it becomes that extra sort of little bit of pressure that you put on yourself to.
There's so many different levels, isn't it? And I also think there's ones like in the past, and there's like not ones in the past, ones for the present more so, and ones for the future. Like if I think about my whys, I have the ones that are more short term and in fact, we always talk about this. It's sometimes hard to find the balance with saving between enjoying your present and actually enjoying your younger years, but also saving for your future. And I feel like that's kind of what I try and think about with my money is like, I want to be able to spend money now on travel is my huge thing. Because I want to enjoy my 20s and be doing all these fun things. But then also I also want to have a good life in my 30s and 40s and 50s, and I want to have a family and I want to be able to look after them. So it's a really hard balance to try and enjoy your life now, but also be prepared for a future life you want to have. So having littler whys and bigger whys can be really helpful with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's just triaging it, which is just like ranking them. We can move on to number 6.
Yeah.
That'll probably wrap us up. So Number 6 is regularly reviewing everything you've set up. As I mentioned, it's taken me, I've just done my last 6 months, which is far too long. That's not regularly reviewing. I've caught myself and realized that's not what I wanted to be doing. So regularly reviewing, it's your last step where you check in, you say, I'm going to have, Millie calls it financial date night with herself.
I have a financial date night with me. It's great.
Yeah, which is
I
perfect.
can get myself a drink, a cup of tea.
Mm-hmm.
I can put some candles on and make it romantic if I want.
Do you want to explain what you do a little bit with your financial date night?
I basically I'm really basic. Rob uses really smart methods. I literally sit down. In fact, I could show. I can show an example. Where's my journal?
So I use spreadsheets just because I love my tech and I find it a bit more aesthetic that way. I can make mistakes and I can get the computer to do all the maths for me. Whereas Millie's a bit more traditional and gets pen and paper out and just loves that feeling of pen and paper.
So I'm not going to show this bit because it's literally my own finances and don't really want it on the internet. But I have a spread that says financial date night. Oh gosh, let's put it here. And then I call it a portfolio, which is generally the term that most people will call it. So you'll write down all the different places you have money, basically. So I just check in every single month and I find out, I just refresh with myself exactly how much money I have in all of the places. And then what
just be one place as well. Like if it's all in a bank account, it makes life a little bit easier.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. But I even find it helpful just physically writing it down and remembering to do that every single month, generally the same time each month. And again, you can do it in a way that kind of like treats yourself and it feels like a nice little date night. And then I also have, I'm gonna cover that one, but my March financial goals. So every single month I'll put in my financial goals and then I'll look at the ones for Feb and see how on track I was. So my February financial goals, I'll go through at the beginning of March and be like, did I do that? Did I do that? Did I do that? And then the way I generally keep on it here is I make mine look cute with bunnies. But again, it's different. I don't mind showing you what we've been spending. So I have one for Feb here. Like you can see, I have all of the different sections. So I have how much I've spent on accommodation, how much I spent on food, how much I spent on fun, and then I'll total it at the bottom. So here we have my spending breakdown. So I try and do this as I go. So every couple of days I sit down with my journal and I go through and do stuff. I'll literally write down the things I've spent on accommodation, the things I've spent on food, things I've spent on fun. For me, travel is a huge one because it's travel.
That's what we're doing.
Things I spent on shopping, and then MISC is just extra things like my pension. And then, at the end, I'll tally it all up. And then I can look really easily at the different categories and be like, I spent quite a lot on shopping that month. And then I can make that a goal to try and cut down this column. Or I can be like, I was really good spending on food shops or whatever it is. So that's basically what I do every month is go down all of the different sections. So it's just so then I can so easily look back at any month and be like, that's exactly where all of my money went. Every single penny is accounted for. There's nothing confusing there. Yeah. I don't colour code this. I do love a bit of colour coding though. I colour code my mood. And I colour code my habits. I like the organisation.
Yeah, very very similar to the things that I'm doing where my stuff's just all on a spreadsheet instead. So just to quickly review for folks that may have checked in late or something along those lines, or to be fair, we've waffled a fair bit about each one, so it hasn't felt like the most methodical chat. But number 1 for budgeting is understand your income. Know how much money is coming into your bank account every single month, every single week. Number 2, track your spending, as Millie's just demonstrated. A fantastic way, or the best way of knowing where all your money is going, writing it down. Yeah, it
doesn't matter how you do it.
Yep,
it can be so average like mine is.
Yeah.
Mine's like so old-fashioned and I'm like an old woman.
But it works.
It works
it's
for
a
me.
way of tracking her spending. Number 3 is setting realistic goals. So making sure, yeah, I don't really need to explain it again. Number 4, making a plan. Number 5, making the adjustments that you need and creating some habits to help you. And then number 6 is regularly reviewing. So it could be every couple of months, could be every single month, it could be, I don't recommend 6 months because it took me a bloody long time to do it. So every couple of months. And yeah, hopefully it should help you. Millie and I love talking about money. I just want to reiterate, it's not financial advice at all. You are your own people, you're your own selves to do what you need to do and to make your own decisions. But yeah, we find some of the tips that we've talked about to be really helpful for us.
For sure.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd love to do an investing.
I think we
conversation
need
at
to
some
do a
point.
whole. Yeah, I thought we touched on it today, but this took us longer. I would love to do one on breaking down. So where we said the 50-30-20, the 20%
Yeah, breaking
investing.
down 10%.
How do you invest? What is it? How does it
Why?
work?
Why do people
Why
do
do
it?
you do it? What can
Yeah.
I gain from it?
What risks are involved?
Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Because it's a fascinating conversation.
Yeah.
And like some of the most valuable information you can learn in your adult life, I think.
It's
Especially
powerful.
for people on the lower end of 40. Because you really, really, really have time to completely change what your life looks like.
Yeah, fully agree. Well, on that note,
We'll leave it at
I
that.
think we'll head off and get on with our day.
Yeah, thank you
Your
so
boy's
much for
going
joining.
home. I'm
Yeah, we're
going to see
going
my parents, which
going
is,
to Rob's family home.
It's been a little while. I haven't been home over a year and a half at least, so it's gonna be nice.
Very exciting. Thank you so much for joining.
Have a good one. See you later.
See if I can